Well, what's the look at Addie Deal so far? She's obviously the one garnering a lot of
Oh, I got it. You're all right.
garnering a lot of excitement as the season is about to start.
You know, she's Addie's really put together. She's doing great. You know, she's catches on really well. She's really skilled. She's got a great feel. You know, she's everything that we were hoping she would be, certainly, and hopefully a little more.
How do you manage, because obviously the outside world with her plate, there's a lot of expectations for her coming in. How do you help her through kind of just dealing with that?
You know, Addie's kind of been on the spotlight for a few years, and so I think she manages it pretty well. And you know, we just kind of business as usual, right? It's just, especially now in the summer. Every now and then, you know, you guys are coming in as media, and there'll be some things written about her. But I think a lot of that management might happen as the season starts and as the freshmen play. Sometimes they're freshmen, right? And you're like, whoa, I thought, you know, you were coming in with all these accolades, and that's just kind of a normal progression. But Addie's got such a mature mindset, and typically kids, you know, coming in with McDonald's All-American type status do. But I've really liked how she's managed it so far. So we're not doing anything any differently. We're just, you know, trying to make sure, you know, she's learning right along the same pace as the other four newcomers.
Feels like you have a little more size than you usually do. I mean, with Ava, Layla, and Hannah, I mean, how are things working out there?
You know, that's one thing we didn't have last year, right? Because Ava Hayden is a slender, tall, but that was about it. Now we have Layla Hayes, who is 6'5", but real strong. And you have Hannah, who's a big but fluid. Ava's a tall, big, but fluid. But we also got size, even more importantly, in the guards with Emily Rodriguez. She's a big built guard. Tegan Mulaney, we're hoping for continued progression with her. Journey Houston has been looking really great. She's another solid guard. Last year we were Kylie and Taylor McCabe, which are great, but when you go up against big physical teams, you don't have a counter. This year, we're a lot bigger across the board, with the exception of a little chit-chat, right? That's where we lost the height and the length that we've been used to. But overall, I'm really liking our size. I think that's going to give us a lot of different looks. You could play couple of those bigs together, depending on the offensive tweak that I might put in a little bit later. So I'm really loving the fact that, especially, we're going to have a counter with Layla Hayes.
How's the transition been for Sydney going from player to assistant coach?
I think really well. And, she hit the ground running, getting ready for basketball camps, getting ready for our golf outing, and helping getting ready for practice. A lot of long hours. I always kind of equate coaching to the folks who become parents. You never quite know what a parent did or does until you become one. And I don't think you really know what coaches do until you become one. All the pre-work that's done before you get to a practice, right? And Sid she's just been great. She just hopped in, and what I love about Sid is she understands the system already. So in some ways she can help Jazz Walker, our new coach, and Lysandra Barrett, just with a general drill, because she knows how I want it set up for our offense, because she's run it for so many years.
She was such a leader just right out of the gate last year. I mean, is there somebody filling that role this year too? This gal over here to your right.
Yeah, I'd say, Kylie and Taylor Strimlow, I think both of them have done a great job this summer. Because Hannah Stalkey hasn't been with us because she made that USA team, and we're thrilled about that. And that in one way it's kind of tough because we can't build that chemistry and that on-court presence with her as a starter. But on the positive, and we tend to look at the positive side always, is that these other people are getting a lot of opportunity to play and lead. And I think that Strimlow, she's kind of a born leader, and Kylie is doing a great job as that 6-year senior.
Is Hannah playing the four with the USA basketball team?
Yeah.
That's got to be beneficial
Yeah,
for you guys.
it really is. They have Audie Crooks, and they have another big kid from Texas, and an Oklahoma big with Beers. So she's definitely playing on the perimeter. So I'm really excited because she's getting that experience for us, but certainly for hopefully her tryouts in the WNBA, because she's got to be able to show that skill defensively and offensively. And I'm so proud of her because she was one of the few kids that had not made a USA team before or been invited to try out. So she was a little bit nervous about going because she's like, I said, well, we're going. We're going to get out of the comfort zone, and I go, just be you. And I heard from the coaches that were watching, and they just said that you just could not put her on that team. So I was thrilled about that.
Have you heard from her since she made the team?
Oh,
and she
yeah.
talked about this
Yeah,
tragic scenario?
it was really fun. We found out we had basketball camp, and I found out, but then she FaceTimed Taylor, and we all happened to be together with the camp. So it's this big eruption. And Hannah's an easy crier for good ways. So she's like crying, and the team is all cheering. So that was a cool moment. And then, of course, texted, and we've FaceTimed her into our circle. So she's missed 3 practices, and I think we put her in her spot in our circle. Someone's holding the phone. And they flew to Chile yesterday. So today, it was about a 9-hour flight, but she was in our circle. They just gotten into the hotel. So, but she was a little homesick early, but just like missed everybody, not homesick, but like, you're kind of missing, camp. They used to think, oh, it's so hot, but I'm so tired, but she kind of missed being with the buddies. But we reminded her that, her opportunity to get a gold medal. We're all going to forgive her for missing that hot summer, sweaty camp session.
Can that be for her development?
Well, I just hope, every kid that's usually played for USA basketball that we've had is, you're going and you're practicing, and then it's just something special to wear it for the USA. Lisa coached for the USA basketball. But what I would like to have happen is, she's practicing, and then when you get into moments, right, she can go into that beast mode a little quicker because, she's had 3 weeks of really practicing and getting confidence that she's scored against so-and-so and she's defended so-and-so. So now when she gets here, hopefully, help her have a really great, you always want to save the best for last type of year. And then going into the WNBA, draft, I think all of this can just be so good for that growth mindset. And, I think even the best players sometimes, they're, you're kind of wondering, and especially when she's 5 to 4, 4 to 5, but for her to have this success, to make the team as a 4, but, there's a lot of the people that are going to do things. So you can use her specific qualities. So we have her still working out there on her own, what we need her to do in our offense, because we're not going to have all the kids, we don't have the Flagey on our team, you don't have Beers and Layla Hayes, right? So she's going to be asked to do a little bit more when she comes, but I think what she's going to gain mentally is going to be just as important as what she's gaining practice-wise physically.
Jan, I know Jasmine worked at camp a few years ago, and I guess what was the hiring process with her like, and how she kind of stay on your radar, and what she kind of bring in?
Well, it was just she had played, and it wasn't. She reached out to Raina and just said, "Hey," because there's Central Michigan to Western, and she was a young kid going to work camp, and we take a lot of those kids, right? Because it's great to grow the game. So that experience was independent of this, right?
Okay.
I mean, she did great, but it was mostly where she was and what she was doing her stops. And so when I, called on people, I was just trying to really get a different feel and fit for that position. And then, I kept calling people, and her name kept coming up. And so the fun thing was that she'd done well working our camp, but I didn't go back to that and say, oh, she did a great job at camp. It was just helped her familiarity. I think that was the break. But it was mostly the job that she'd been doing and the reputation that she'd built. Because I don't think her and Raina weren't friends. It wasn't like a total connection like that. It was, hey, a call, they played each other, and she came to camp, which that was a great connection, and the foundation of kind of knowing what we're about. But she's done a really good job at her stops. And I really wanted to have a little bit more help with Lysandra with our recruiting coordination, and I think she's going to be really great at that. And she's great on-floor coaching too.
So the filter goes from the roster to the coaching staff now, so you kind of lose that vocal leader. Just who so far have you seen kind of step up into that leadership role?
Taylor Strimlow is really good at all of that, the leadership. I mean, she's come in as a freshman and been pretty good at that. Kylie's doing a good job, but Taylor's got that Kate Martin, Sid Affolter kind of ability. No matter how she might be playing or how she might be feeling, she's able to get out of herself and make sure that everybody else is good. And she could have 104-degree fever and just miss 17 shots in a row, and broken up with her boyfriend. But you would know because she's so busy hyping you and making sure you've gotten to class. Remember, we got to turn in our shot chart. Remember, we got to this. They just got it. And Taylor is really, really good at that. Just a great, great kid. But I just have really been thrilled with all of them this summer. They're taking care of each other, and the freshmen are, working through some of their homesicknesses. And we got Alaska to Georgia, Dominican, right? And our little right here at home with Journey. And then Cali, right? So it's been kind of fun, melding that. But this is always the most fun and exciting part when it's just beginning.